This is some of the most frustrating chess I've ever seen in my life. This past weekend, I was in LA at Ludwig's CHESSBOXING event. I was there as the videographer and supporter of Dina Belankaya. If you want to see her video, I just did a recap. It's phenomenal. She's going to come out with one later. I'll link both of those videos in the description below. But that's not what we're talking about today. Today, we're going to talk about Chris Abroad in Japan versus Overtflow. Chris Abroad in Japan is like an educational YouTuber about sharing the culture of Japan to everyone else. And then Overtflow is a gamer. So neither of them have a background in chess. So I totally understand that. But what you're about to see is like insane. Like, okay, first off, white's out doing okay. Black gives a check. They get immediately propelled back with tempo. And and then white's like, let me just continue attacking, developing my pawns and kicking your bishop around. I don't hate it for someone that doesn't play chess. And in fact, they actually have a nice dark square pawn structure with the dark square bishop outside the pawn structure so that it can, trade itself off and or do whatever. But so white, I actually kind of like what white's doing so far as a beginner. Black, on the other hand, has two knights on the rim. And there's this saying that knights on the rim are feeling dim. So, they don't really control quite as many squares when they're on the side of the board versus, this white knight can, control a lot of different squares. It's looking pretty good there. So let's just see what happens. They develop, and there's a pawn push. Feels a little random, but castles and castles. And you're like, whoa, these beginners know how to castle? Fantastic. Like, great stuff. White, king's pretty safe. Pieces developed except for the knight on b1. On the other hand, castling for black is actually pretty catastrophic. Because when you have a knight on the rim and you can open up the king, it's really, really dangerous for white to be castled over kingside. But, of course, our protagonist as white does not know what they are doing, so they are not going to be able to find bishop takes h6. Instead, they just kind of continue developing, trying to play safe moves. And as the knight moves forward, like, look at this. White actually, somebody told white to like build up like a London structure or something, because this is all like looking pretty solid for their level. Got a nice little battery hitting this h7 pawn. Of course, black doesn't see that, so white's able to come in and capture a pawn and hit the king. This is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And then, oh my gosh, white's even taking advantage of the weak dark squares. And what are we getting here? This is the beginning of the struggle bus. Okay, so far only black was really on the struggle bus, but now white's like, hey, move aside, I need to get onto the struggle bus, and we're gonna see who's gonna really drive this thing. And after king takes this free bishop, you think maybe it's a trap, and maybe it is, because look at this, knight g5. I mean, the queen sneaking its way on this diagonal. Black's distracted, queen h7. And all of a sudden, it's mate in 3. It's mate in 2 right now. And the knight's mate in 2 here. Knight check, king moves, and mate. But, again, white doesn't see this. So what do? They're like, oh, I'll just move my bishop. I don't hate this. I like this. It's like, hey, I couldn't see the mate. Now I have a new attack. Yeah, it's allowing you to get forked, but you don't know what's going to happen on this chessboard. In fact, a pawn just takes on a3, ignoring this threat, so now the queen can just go check, check, and mate. Why would we end it that early? These guys are here to box. They're here for content. Why would they end the fight so early, right? So they... I need to contact Chris Abroad and just say, hey, I had the shirt, I Gambit, You Blunder. I want to make a special edition called I Gambit, I Blunder. Because he needs to wear it after this Botez Gambit. Now white's just down a queen, and it's not looking good. They're just making moves. Maybe it's some of the punches just getting to their heads, but still trying to transfer his pieces to the king side. Now they are getting forked, so that's rather unfortunate. But what's not unfortunate is that black refuses to take the knight, and even though white refuses to defend the knight, it never gets taken. Instead, the other knight dies first. Who would have thought? And I just don't even understand. Like, the knight survives. Like, how did the knight survive? Yeah, and then you saw this move. Rook c1. What? Knight takes, bishop takes. Okay, not only did we lose a rook, and we're already down a queen for white, but white's also allowing a very dangerous move. After the rook moves from the a1 square, the pawn can just promote. So we're going to see the pawn promote, right? No. In fact, we're going to see the bishop sacrifice itself. And we're going to see every pawn move except for the a2 pawn. And yeah, this is... now the pawn's not even promoting with check. So what do we get here? Okay, I'm not just sending Chris abroad a shirt. I'm also going to send Overtflow a shirt. I gambit, I blunder. Okay, free queen. And hey, white saw the free queen. After gambiting the bishop, like I actually don't even know what this is, but I just noticed that the free queen is even worse. But hey, the bishop gets lost because of a pin. And then a few moves later, black's really struggling. They're low on time. You know, it would really help trying to find a checkmate if you had an extra queen, but we're gonna ignore that because obviously the punches might be getting to them. And after a couple of checks, in other words, a sacrifice of a rook, and then another check, black ends up flagging. They run out of time, and even though they have a pawn on a2 ready to promote at a moment's notice, black is the one that loses this chess boxing match. I have no words for what you just experienced, except that for 20 moves, a1 equals queen was a viable move. And look, I know these guys don't really play chess. This is all in good fun. But I was about to jump through the screen in the locker room to move this a pawn. Hope you enjoyed. Happy learning, everyone.